What's going on, you guys? My name's Ty Knots and welcome to Top 5 Unknowns. 5 celebrities with unexpected ties to crimes. Number 5. Steve McQueen was a well-known actor most commonly remembered for the roles he played in the 1960s, and for his persona as an anti-hero type. Some of his more popular films include Cincinnati Kid, The Thomas Crown Affair, and The Getaway. By 1974, Steven had ranked as being the highest paid actor in the movie business. However, shortly after this, his career began to die off. It's been rumored that this is due to the fact that he was extremely difficult to work with, and gave directors and producers an incredibly hard time. One of America's most infamous crimes took place in August of 1969, when Charles Manson and 4 of his cult members broke into the home of Sharon Tate, a well-known actress. Tate and 4 others who were in the house that evening lost their lives, while Tate's husband, a famous director, was in London. However, an extremely interesting fact that most people tend to overlook is that Stephen McQueen had also been invited to Sharon's home that evening. However, he never ended up showing up. Stephen, being one of Hollywood's biggest names at the time, was known for being a womanizer. It's been said that the reason he never attended Sharon's get-together was because he met with a young woman while on the way and had a one-night stand with her. He stood up Sharon and her guests and managed to escape Charles Manson's plot in the process. However, some have suggested that if Stephen had actually been there that evening, things may have turned out much differently. Stephen had been trained during the war and was even trained in martial arts for several years. Some say that if he had been in attendance, he may have been able to fight off the family, potentially leading to much sooner arrest of Charles Manson and his group of followers. Though Stephen wasn't the only one who missed out on the party that evening. Another man named Jerzy Kosinski had also been invited. Jerzy was an American novelist and planned to attend the party after coming home from Paris earlier that day. However, his luggage was held up at the airport and somehow sent to New York by mistake. In a series of confusing events, he ended up missing a second flight, which caused him to be stranded in New York later on that day, which ultimately led to him missing the party. It's certainly comforting to know that the loss of life on that evening was kept to a minimum, with these 2 individuals unexpectedly missing the party. However, it truly makes you wonder if things could have turned out differently and possibly better if the 2 had been there. Number 4. John F. Kennedy's fateful day in Dallas, Texas in 1963 is one of the most well-documented historical events ever. Due to the sheer number of theories available, almost every second of that day has been heavily scrutinized and called into question at least once. However, an interesting fact that most people are unaware of is that a future celebrity happened to cross paths with Kennedy that day. Bill Paxton. Bill was an American actor, most known for his roles in Terminator, Apollo 13, Titanic, and several other big-name films. While Kennedy exited his hotel in Texas, he gave a speech to a large group of people who'd gathered outside to see him before his infamous trip to Dallas. Television cameras were present to document the event, with footage being taken of the crowd. In the crowd, you can see a little boy sitting on someone's shoulders, hovering over a large group of people. It wasn't until several decades later that this boy made quite a name for himself, with Bill Paxton revealing that it was actually him. Fort Worth, Texas was Bill's hometown, and he was just 8 years old at the time of the speech. According to Bill, he and his family had arrived late to the speech, with there already being hordes of people there. However, an unknown man offered to hold Bill up on his shoulders so that he could at least see the speech take place. No one knew the tragedy that would unfold just hours later, and no one knew that this photograph would become one of the most well-known images of Bill Paxton to this day. In fact, 2 of these photos are now on display in a museum in Dealey Plaza. Number 3. In December of 1969, Alec McKay returned home to his mansion in Wimbledon and was in utter shock when he found that his wife was missing and his house had been completely ransacked. Several hours later, he received a call from someone claiming to call himself M3, demanding a minimum of $1 million for his wife's safe return. However, the deal wasn't quite that simple. It took police over a month to arrange a proper drop-off with the kidnappers, with the drop-off not actually taking place until February 6th of 1970, over 2 months after the kidnapping had taken place. Alec was asked to leave just $500,000 of the ransom inside of a phone booth a short distance away. However, before the suspects could pick up the funds, a young couple found the box and reported it to local police as suspicious. A Volvo was seen driving by during this time, which turned out to belong to the kidnappers, with the license plate leading police directly to them. The man responsible was named Arthur Hossain, and he lived in a farm nearby. Though unfortunately for everyone involved, when police arrived to the farm, they found no evidence that Muriel had ever actually been there, at least not for quite some time. They searched every square inch of the property but found no signs of life, nor signs of a body. Police did, however, find enough evidence to place both Arthur and his accomplice in prison for life. During an interrogation, it turned out that Alec's wife was never actually meant to be kidnapped. In fact, they were searching for the wife of Rupert Murdoch, a well-known news reporter. The men's plan was to kidnap Rupert's wife and hold her for ransom, though Murdoch ended up being in Australia at the time that the crime took place, leading the suspects to get confused and kidnap the wrong woman. Muriel's remains have never been found to this day. Number 2. James Ellroy is a well-known science fiction author whose stories oftentimes take place in the 1940s and 50s. Most of his stories involve mysterious and unsolved crimes, though this is not simply because the topic is interesting to James, but rather because his own mother was the victim of an unsolved crime when he was a boy. James had lived with his single mother in 1958 when he was just 10 years old. However, one evening, his mother was savagely attacked and ultimately lost her life to an unknown man. Her case was sadly placed on the back burner, as a prominent figure at the time, Johnny Stompanato, had been attacked on the same day. Police and media were far more concerned with this case rather than James's mother's, so her case eventually ran cold. Later on, in 1996, James published a book known as My Dark Places, which was a memoir about his mother and his early life. In the book, he did extensive research into her attack, with him definitively naming her unknown attacker as an olive-skinned man who had attacked another woman around the same time. He hoped that the publishing of this book may have led to the other woman who survived to come forward. However, she never did, and the case remains unsolved to this day. Number 1. Woody Harrelson is one of America's most well-known actors. He's commonly known for playing simple family roles, such as his character Woody in Cheers. Though when Woody was just 7 years old, Woody's father and mother separated. He soon learned that his father was in the crime business and was known to have taken the lives of several individuals in exchange for payment from underground crime organizations. His father had been on trial several times and was eventually convicted in 1973. He spent just 5 years in prison before being paroled, at which time he was hired by a drug cartel to take the life of a district judge who worked for the US government. He was caught for this and was sentenced to 2 life sentences in prison. Though very similar to Bill Paxton, who we mentioned a moment ago, Woody also had a connection to Kennedy. During Kennedy's infamous parade in Dallas, 3 mysterious men were documented as being on the grassy knoll. It's widely assumed that one of these men was Woody's father, though this hasn't been confirmed. Some suggested that his father may have been more deeply involved in the crimes that took place that day, though the evidence just simply isn't there. In fact, while in prison for life, Woody's father did claim to be involved in the attack against Kennedy, but no one is sure if this was just a publicity stunt or not. His father ultimately passed away in 2007, along with a countless number of secrets involving his life of crime. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to click that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep updated with our videos.